Reuben Foster earned his reputation as Alabama's hardest-hitting linebacker for a reason. Do you guys remember watching him deliver bone-crushing hits week after week? As a young teen, I marveled over this larger-than-life football star who seemed to be unstoppable. And for a while, it felt like Foster was destined to have an incredible NFL career, and Alabama fans couldn't wait to see him unleash those same devastating hits on Sundays. But a series of setbacks and unfortunate events caused a once promising career to vanish almost overnight. Curious to find out what happened, I did some digging. So to understand what happened to Reuben Foster's career, we need to start back in his high school days. Born and raised in Roanoke, Alabama, Reuben Foster's football journey took off when he moved across the state line to LaGrange, Georgia after 6th grade. He enrolled at Trope County High School, where he quickly made a name for himself on the football field. Foster would make an immediate impact his freshman year in high school, and even had a breakout game against Columbus Carver, another rival school in the state of Georgia. He went on to have such a dominant performance that game, people started calling him the freakish freshman. I mean, imagine having to line up against this guy and then finding out that he's just a freshman. He would wrap up his first year in high school with an impressive 110 tackles, and followed it up with 112 tackles as a sophomore. For more context to really understand how good Reuben Foster was growing up, he was already receiving SEC offers before his junior year in high school. This would eventually lead him to verbally commit to Alabama in 2011 before his junior season. By this time, Foster was a top national recruit at 6'2", roughly 220 pounds of pure muscle, and he would rack up 185 tackles, including 34 tackles for loss and 18 sacks. But things would take a turn when Trope County's head coach was dismissed amid allegations that he paid a player to move from Alabama across state lines to West Point, Georgia to play for the same team. So after this drama with the coaches, Foster thought it would be a wise decision to transfer for his senior year. Not 100% certain if the main reason for him moving was because of the coaching allegations, but what we do know is that his family was living in Auburn, Alabama. So at the very least, he could move back in with his family in Auburn with a fresh start and finish his senior year at Auburn High School in 2012. It was also during this transition where he decided to switch his commitment to Auburn. It just had to be Auburn, the only other SEC school in Alabama. Foster was so confident that Auburn was the right fit for him at the time, he even got an Auburn tattoo on his arm. In hindsight, that's probably not the wisest decision, which we'll find out why soon. Now, finally committed to a college program, Foster could focus on crushing it in his senior year. His performance was nothing short of dominant, recording 80 tackles, 70 solo tackles, and 2 sacks. He even helped Auburn High reach the quarterfinals of the Class 6A playoffs, where they lost a tight 7-8 battle against rival Opelika High School. Foster was even invited to the 2013 Under Armour All-American game. If you didn't know, this is a game after the regular season where all the top recruits play against each other, which makes his 6 tackles and 2.5 tackles for loss really impressive. You had analysts describing him as the complete package as a linebacker, praising his size, speed, strength, and tackling ability. Foster was even compared to Alabama legend Cornelius Bennett, a 5-time Pro Bowler and 2-time AFC Defensive MVP when he played in the late 80s and early 90s. Now, when it came to recruiting, the buzz around Reuben Foster was crazy. I didn't realize how big of a recruit this guy actually was. I mean, he was the #1 recruit in the state of Alabama and the #2 overall in the country, right behind Robert Candici. But wait a second, wasn't Foster already committed to Auburn? Well, yeah, he was. But his commitment was shaky, and while he was putting up crazy stats his senior year, other schools continued to pursue him. So when Auburn fired head coach Gene Chizik, Foster decided to reopen his recruitment. Throughout January, he'd been exploring his options with several top programs, including Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and Washington, just to name a few. But on National Signing Day, in a dramatic change of events, Foster recommitted to Alabama, bringing an end to one of the most unpredictable recruiting stories of the year. Now he was finally committed and ready to play for Nick Saban and defensive coordinator Kirby Smart. Reuben Foster hit the ground running at Alabama, making his debut as a true freshman in the season opener game against Virginia Tech. Throughout that season, he played in 9 games, recording a total of 12 tackles. Alabama was looking to fill the inside linebacker spot that was left vacant by Butkus Award winner CJ Mosley. And of course, Foster had his sights on the starting job. Unfortunately, he suffered an injury during spring practice in April of 2014, which set him back a bit. Because of this, Foster wouldn't get the starting role, but still still made an impact, playing in 11 games and finishing third on the team with 8 special team tackles. He would actually get his first career start at middle linebacker against West Virginia, where he tallied 7 tackles, including 2 solo and 1 for a loss. And he would wrap up his sophomore year with 22 tackles, 11 of them solo, along with 2 tackles for loss, and his first career sack against Texas A&M. So things were moving along for Foster, although he hadn't made the immediate impact people thought he would. He kept his head down while trying to take advantage of every opportunity, and it paid off. By his junior year, Foster was ready to take over as the starting inside linebacker, playing what could have been the most memorable year for Foster. Alabama was unbeatable during this time and would win the national championship game over Clemson 45-40. He would cap off a strong season, finishing second on the team with 73 tackles, including 8 tackles for loss. He also added 2 sacks and 3 quarterback hurries and 9 pass breakups. So heading into his senior year, Foster was already being talked about as one of the best linebackers in the country. Alabama had just come off of a national championship season, and nothing seemed to be slowing them down. Until
tonight, the renewal of a very intense rivalry. The Alabama Crimson Tide 7-1 for the year. The LSU Tigers 7-2.
This game was a defensive battle, and Alabama's defense came to play this game. They would lock down future NFL running back and first-round pick Leonard Fournette, but the offense on both sides were just struggling to get anything done. And with a much-needed spark, Reuben Foster would make one of the most memorable plays in SEC history.
Fournette does get it. It's Foster. He has excelled on special teams this year.
No one could believe that there was a player that could actually stop Fournette the way Foster did. Yeah, he probably just caught him off guard and off balance, but I'll let Fournette do the talking on this one.
Who hit you the hardest from an opponent?
Everybody gonna say Reuben Foster, but I really didn't feel the hit. So I say nobody really.
Alabama ultimately won this game, and this play became one of the most defining moments of Foster's college career. If we fast forward, Alabama's undefeated season would come to an end after a loss to Clemson 35-31 in the 2017 national championship game. Foster would still put up impressive numbers as a senior, racking up 115 tackles, 13 for loss, and 5 sacks. He would even cement his legacy as one of the best linebackers to come from Alabama while winning the Butkus Award, which is given to the nation's top linebacker. Now with his college career behind him, it was time for him to get ready for his next chapter. Reuben Foster's path to the NFL definitely hit a few bumps. On January 18th, news broke out that both he and Alabama teammate Jonathan Allen turned down the invites to play in the Senior Bowl, which honestly isn't that big of a deal, but then Foster had to get surgery to repair a torn rotator cuff in his right shoulder, which put his draft preparation on hold. Things got even more complicated during the NFL scouting combine. Foster was just one of 19 linebackers invited, but was sent home after getting into a heated argument with a hospital worker during his medical examination. Reporters later revealed that he was frustrated with how he was being treated, and before he could even meet with any of the team's reps, he was dismissed from the event. I wasn't there, but apparently he pulled the "Do you know who I am" card. To make matters worse, it was later announced that Foster had failed a drug test at the combine, with his urine sample reported as diluted, which is just treated as a positive result. And despite all this off-the-field drama, Foster was still projected as a first-round pick by most experts. So the San Francisco 49ers drafted him 31st overall in the 2017 NFL Draft. Despite everything that had happened, he still got drafted in the first round. That just shows you how dominant he was in college. He was the 3rd inside linebacker taken that year, behind Haason Reddick and Jared Davis, and he became one of 2 linebackers that the 49ers had selected, joining Pita Tamupenu. On June 9th, 2017, he signed a 4-year, $9.03 million contract, which included $6.87 million guaranteed and a $4.71 million signing bonus. We're talking about a lot of money here. So as training camps rolled around, the Niners wanted to ease Foster into their system, which is pretty common, especially for rookies. Originally, he was set to back up Malcolm Smith, but after Smith tore his pectoral during training camp, Foster earned the starting spot at right outside linebacker. He even made his NFL debut in the 49ers season opener against the Carolina Panthers, where he recorded 3 solo tackles and a pass deflection. Unfortunately, the injury bug struck early, and he suffered an ankle injury early in that game while chasing down down Christian McCaffrey, which would keep him out for the next 5 weeks. Man, this guy just can't get a break. So once he returned in week 7, he would get another shot as the starting middle linebacker after the team released Navarro Bowman. Foster's rookie season was solid and even had a standout game against the Arizona Cardinals with 14 tackles. And by his 10th game, he already had 72 tackles, earning him a spot on the all-rookie team. Things were looking good for Foster at this point. There were some bumps in past injuries and minor altercations, but overall things were trending in a positive direction. However, Foster's career quickly took a turn in 2018. He was suspended for the first 2 games of the season due to a weapons charge and a misdemeanor drug offense. Things went from bad to worse in November when he was arrested for domestic violence, leading the 49ers to release him immediately. Now, it's still in question whether he committed these offenses, but for Coach Kyle Shanahan, it wasn't worth the risk, mentioning that given Foster's history, it was tough to keep trusting him. If you want to succeed on the field, you definitely have to make sure you're making the right decisions off the field, which means getting rid of any toxic relationships that might be holding you back. Something much easier said than done. Despite all the drama surrounding Reuben Foster, just days later, after getting released from the 49ers, the Washingtons claimed Foster off waivers. The move was controversial, but the Redskins believed his former Alabama teammates like Jonathan Allen and Darren Payne could provide the support he needed. So Foster was placed on the commissioner's exempt list, which pretty much is a waiting list to see if and when you can play. After an investigation, the NFL decided not to suspend him, but fined him 2 game checks and set up an accountability plan involving counseling and community service. But things kept getting worse. Tragically, in his first practice with Washington in May 2019, Foster tore his ACL and LCL, ending his season before it even began. He tried to come back in 2020, but was placed on injured reserve again, and his contract expired after that season. Now, most players would have quit at this point. You've already gotten in trouble with the league and have battled through multiple serious injuries. And for a while, it seemed like Foster hung up his cleats for good. But after much needed time away from the NFL, Foster attempted a comeback. In 2022, he had workouts with the Miami Dolphins and Seattle Seahawks, but unfortunately neither team would sign him. Imagine getting cut from a team and then 2 years later trying to make a comeback. But even though this might have discouraged a lot of players, which it probably did discourage Foster, not gonna lie, he decided to take another approach because maybe the NFL just isn't the right place for him now. So in January of 2023, he pursued an opportunity to join the Pittsburgh Maulers of the USFL. This would turn out to be a positive move for Foster. He started in all 8 games, racking up 53 tackles, 5 deflections, and an interception. But to no fault of his own, the Maulers folded when the USFL merged with the XFL to form the United Football League. So in early 2024, Foster was picked up by the Houston Roughnecks in the UFL dispersal draft. And he would put up solid numbers once again, playing in 8 games, recording 30 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, and another interception. But history has a way of repeating itself. I'm not exactly sure what caused this, but he would be put on injured reserve later that year. And by August, he was waived by the Roughnecks, but was quickly claimed by the Arlington Renegades. During the recording of this video, there just isn't much out there regarding his transition to Arlington, but wherever he ends up, I'm sure he's gonna find a way to make plays on the field. Now 30 years old, he's in the later half of his career and only has a few more years to ball out on the field. I don't anticipate he's gonna make a comeback on an NFL roster, but crazier things have happened. So although he's had a rocky past, I still respect his work ethic. And I will always remember this guy as the hardest hitting linebacker to come out of Alabama. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. If you love staying up to date with football stories and insights, make sure to join the sports newsletter linked down below. It's a community that I'm trying to build, and I think you guys will get a lot of value from it. Thanks for watching to the end of the video, and I will see you next time.